Are you a big E3 fan, Ender?
Thrizzle. No.
I thought you
Don't
were.
fucking care.
Did you used to be?
Not well, so when I worked at Best Buy, so I worked at Best Buy for about 7 years.
Okay.
So like my first, it was my first job. So get cheap video games, cheap things. I worked at Best Buy back when CDs were a thing, people. So we could get all that stuff for super cheap, great discount. E3 was huge because man, our bosses would go and they would come back with a ton of stuff. Demos and posters and everything that you could possibly want from all these things. And then kind of what we're going to talk here, people stopped showing up. It didn't become that great of a thing. Everyone kind of had their own event that they wanted to do. And it just kind of lost its luster. I mean, it's not what it used to be.
Yeah.
I wish it could go back to that trade show that everybody showed up with. I think COVID hurt it huge.
I mean, it was already hurting before.
It was already hurting, and then I don't even know what it costs for one of the vendors to be there, but obviously it was cheaper for them to make their own show.
Well,
than
here
it
we
was
got
to show up to one.
Yeah, so officially Nintendo, Xbox, and Sony are pulling out again.
So who else is there?
Well, in all fairness, other than Nintendo not being there,
is this the indie show though? Now is this really?
I don't know. But here's and Microsoft's not been there for a while. A lot of people they didn't used to have a booth, but they did their conference at the Microsoft Theater over by the Staples Center, LA Live, I think is what it's called. But they and Sony has pulled out I think even before COVID, Sony stopped going. So and they do their own thing later. But here it is: the E3 people respond to these guys not coming. They say E3 has a rich history within our industry, and we are always heartened to feel the passion for the show and hear what it means to different people. Reviving a trade show after a 3-year hiatus and a global pandemic was always going to have its challenges, which is why we conducted an extensive search in consultation with the ESA member companies to identify the best partner to produce E3. In selecting ReedPop as our partner, we have been able to tap into their rich history of hosting popular industry events like PAX and broader consumer shows like Comic-Con. That's the statement in response to those guys not coming. Now, from what I understand, a lot of the vendors don't care for ReedPop and how they manage everything. And I don't know if that's just a scapegoat for them to, like, these guys feel bad because E3 was the place that you went and it was all about dominating the show, put everybody on a neutral playing field. And now I agree with you. It probably does come down to money. It's about owning the moments. Nintendo always finds their way, but they have their own niche. Sony has completely vacated the entire month, basically, or week.
Yeah, but I mean that's
and
Sony.
They do their,
At some
but
point,
they
someone's going to piss Sony off, and they're going to take their ball and go home.
I mean they do their own event, and they do their own PlayStation Direct style events, and they're very successful at that. And now Microsoft is in this. Microsoft usually has a good conference around E3. They'll do their conference during E3, of course. And then EA hasn't been a part of E3 for a while. A lot of people are surprised about that. They're there. They're just across the street at their own EA Play event. So I'm with you. Like, Bethesda's not going to have a conference. They're a part of Xbox. So I guess you got Ubisoft.
I don't know.
But again, people get confused because these conferences are all around E3. They think that it's E3, but it's not. It's just at the same time. Because
who knows?
EA will have a conference,
I really
but
haven't put
E3,
a lot of stock into seeing what's there. And again, like I've never been to one, so I think you've got to go to one to really experience what it's all about. But if they feel like ReedPop's going to be able to help them bring it back, I mean, Comic-Con obviously is not going anywhere anytime soon. So if they were part of running those things, then you got a chance. But I do think it comes down to cost and return. These guys feel like it's not worth going to the event anymore. And at some point, I kind of look at it like you start, if you're a maker of some good, you always start at like the conferences and the events and the trade shows and things like that. And you end up growing out of that.
Yeah.
And you don't need to go to the trade show anymore because you're your trade show.
Yeah.
You're bigger than that. I mean, even look at Apple. Apple was the same way, man. They were indie. They hit every trade show that you could possibly be at, did all that stuff. And then they reinvented the launch of their products by doing it all on their own because they got to a level that they could do that. So I think you just have these gaming companies that have so much money behind them. Do I need E3? Like, do I need you anymore? And if I don't, then I'm just going to save the money and do it myself and get a better return on my investment. And I don't blame them.
For sure. I don't blame them at all. The only thing that bums me out is it does feel like a hit to, you know, gamers. It was, like you said, like I said, it was the event that got me to tune in. I used to watch all even the PlayStation. I don't have a PlayStation. I'm not the biggest PlayStation fan, but man, their conferences.
But you also got to remember,
cool,
man, we've been doing this for a long time. So those days of us remembering this of what it was, and that was early 2000s. Like we're not talking like we're talking 15 years ago.
Yeah.
You know, kind of stuff. So people grow out of these events, and if the events don't change and continue to draw the popularity that they used to, or the need, or continue to bring mid-level players to the game and not just focus on your large guys, so when they walk out the door, no one's there to fill it in. So yeah, we'll see there. There's not much you can do. I mean, it's a trade show. They all end up dying off at some point anyway.
Yeah, trust me. That's my real job. Working trade shows. So I have definitely seen, especially them, just any trade show in general coming back from the pandemic has not been easy. It's hard to get people to come out to them. It's hard to get the vendors to fill them. And it's just,
well, I've learned how to do my research without needing them. So now I can do it from the comfort of my home. I don't like,
yep.
We catered towards that to stay alive for a while, but we didn't, some of these companies and players just didn't adapt to that world. We're starting to see things come back, and I think you're going to have more in-person stuff. I think Trex and I actually went out to a friggin' flea market and trade show not too long ago because we're just like, we want some human interaction.
Yeah.
Everything's stupid overpriced. We weren't going to buy anything that we were there. Like crazy price pops, all different kinds of, it was just old school toys and stuff. So just everywhere, like antique toys and things like that. Just, it took my daughter with me. But just to have the human interaction with somebody and to talk to somebody and see people out, it was like, oh, this is crazy. This has been a while, but it wasn't as big as it was when we went before. Like it's still hard to get some people out there. So we'll see. I am interested to see what comes from it and what all the events are and what people are talking about, but I'm not making the trip out there.